You had time to go get a coffee,
Yeah.
but you're complaining about not having time to do this?
Wait. I didn't say I didn't have time to do this. I was here at 8, which is when we planned to start, and you said you can't start at 8 until before. You can't start before 8 because that's when you still technically have members doing stuff in the gym.
Yeah, that's true. But you could have been in here setting all of this up.
Well, I didn't know you'd fucked with it.
I didn't.
You did. Look at my cable.
I can't see anything. The people at home will trust.
No, they won't trust you.
They will trust me because they understand that I'm not the bad guy in this podcast.
That's fine. Someone had to take the fall. Dude,
Did I just pull yours
stop
out?
pulling on shit.
Sorry. I just want to be comfortable as well while we do this.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I need to fix this.
But we're still recording while you do this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, I'll do an intro then. Hey, you know that it's filming, right?
Yeah, but I had to move that so that I didn't pull it over. Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to the Uneducated Opinions podcast. I'm your host, Andy. This is your host, Steve.
Co-hosts.
We're co-hosts. But, you know, like...
But I'm probably the real host.
It does say on the... like when you watch a podcast, it says by Stephen Norman.
Yeah.
It doesn't say by Uneducated Opinions or Steve and Andy or Andy and Steve. I would like to know if it was going to be the Andy and Steve show or the Steve and Andy show, which one you think it would be?
We could put a poll up on the
Instagrams.
We'd probably get a vote. That'd be the deciding vote.
So if you're a friend of mine or a friend of Steve's, I would vote for me because it'd be funny to have it as the Andy and Steve show.
You know what we should do? We should see where the bulk of our listeners come from by doing a poll and saying, because let's be honest, none of our listeners are not people we don't know.
Yeah.
Are people so that was a double negative, that didn't work. Are people we don't know. So we should do a post and see from the majority of our listeners which friends group majority of it has come from.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely from your friends group.
That's just because I talk about it more though. You choose not to mention it when people, because you don't like giving your friends shout outs because you're a dick.
I love giving my friends shout outs. The thing is I'm very like humble. So I don't talk about my podcast and myself a lot. You know, I'm not a great salesman when it comes to that.
Do you think what job, if you were going to get into another job, what other job do you think you would do if you didn't want to coach weightlifting and you weren't doing fish tank stuff?
Oh.
What would your other career path be?
I'd be in marketing.
Would you actually?
Yeah, I'd work for an ad agency probably.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that because you feel like you're a creative soul?
No, I mean like that's what I studied. Like that's my background. So I'd just go back to that.
How heavily is me sipping this coffee going to come through?
Probably not. It depends how heavily you sip it. If you're just like, yeah, like that's definitely coming through. I'd like to point out that we're recording this at 8 a.m. again, so we're not drinking beers.
Yep.
And I haven't really 100% done this yet, but I think I'm almost going to cut out alcohol until
Arnold's?
the Arnold.
What's the Arnold's, Andy?
What? No, so I've qualified for the Arnold in strongman, which is pretty cool. At first I thought it was a pretty big deal. Then I realized, you know, qualifying is...
One thing.
You know, not that hard.
Isn't
but
it?
actually being a good competitor there is going to be the real test. Like the weights there are super heavy, far exceeding my 1RMs and everything.
Yeah.
Like my best deadlift is 237 on a regular bar, and they expect us to pull 260 on an axle bar for reps.
How long do you have?
It's in March.
March. When in March?
March 20th.
20th.
Yeah, it's on a Friday. I'm on the Friday.
On the Friday, okay.
But I think the whole crew will end up going down.
Yeah, I would consider coming down. That's just after my birthday as well, so I could maybe...
Party afterwards. Well, that's the thing. That's the cool thing about being there, competing on the Friday.
You can go
because I'm in
drink and watch the
drink
Saturday.
Sunday, Monday. Especially if I'm gonna like.
Friday after you compete.
I don't know if I'm actually gonna stick to not having any alcohol during this period, but like I've been doing pretty well.
See, I've said that plenty of times. I'm going to stick to having no alcohol, and then like
But you do that during the Open.
goes out the window.
That's 5 weeks at least.
Mm.
And you do it before the Open as well?
Try to, yeah. I think I had one really good year where I didn't drink for probably 6 weeks leading into the Open, and then the 5 weeks of the Open as well, barring like I think during that Open there was a birthday 3 weeks out of the Open.
Yeah.
And I had 1 beer. And then I think I had 2 beers on Valentine's Day, which was during like the first week of the Open.
Yeah.
And that was on like it was the Friday after I did the first workout anyway.
Yeah, and you know, we've obviously talked about this many times, but for me it's more so about, well, actually it's 2 things. It's the discipline, like that makes me feel like I'm really like
Succeeding
attacking my
something.
goals.
Yeah.
But then the second thing is it makes me for me recovery is the biggest factor that I don't have one over just regular people, because you were talking about this last night, not last night, the night before, is like how hard it is for us to actually get enough sleep properly.
Yes.
With the hours
just
that
your
we
work
do.
schedule. Yeah.
You know,
for
we're up
sure.
at like early morning. We do early mornings, like starting at like 6 o'clock, and then we do late nights. We finish at like 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then by the time you get home, have dinner, try to decompress, like
Yeah.
it's hard to get to bed at
So
a
I think
reasonable time.
I've worked it out before. Whereas if I'm staying at home, the absolute latest I can get up in the morning. Because the other thing is part of like, I guess for me, daily ritual is making sure I'm awake half an hour at least before I have to leave the house,
Yeah,
so that I can
because you're gonna get up your driveway.
Yeah. No, but so I can get up, like, if I'm feeling really flat that morning, gives me time to have a quick shower.
Yeah.
I can actually eat something, probably make a coffee as I'm walking out the door, which is like a big thing for me. If I don't have that, then it's
Yeah.
just because it's habitual, right? So then if I'm getting up at 4:30 in the morning to go to work, I get up at 4:30, and then if I'm going home that night, I finish at 7:30. I'm not actually home until probably 8:45 by the time you've locked up the gym and everything.
Yeah.
8:45, have dinner, have a shower. By the time you actually get to bed, it's 9:45, 9:30, maybe 10 if you were dawdling a little bit. So you get to bed at 9:30 even. You got to be up at 4:30 again the next day. That's only 7 hours sleep, which 7 hours seems like a lot, but it's not really. Like,
Especially if you're
when
trying
you're
to
looking
be
at a
an
performance
athlete.
stage, yeah, you need like at least 8, if not 9.
Yeah, so my sweet spot is 9 hours. If I get 9 hours somehow, it doesn't happen, but if I get 9 hours, it's magic.
Yeah.
Like my performance goes up, my like mood is really elevated. So last night I had 7 hours of actual sleeping time. Like I was in bed for longer, but like when I was asleep it was 7 hours because I track it on Sleep Cycle. But yeah, 9 hours is...
You know what's really
Magic
interesting
number.
is I said this to you the other day. I noticed it's probably not, my baseline probably isn't great because I started doing all my sleep tracking and everything like through the Christmas period. So on times where I have been drinking pretty regularly.
Yeah.
But my baseline for example, like what they call, I have that Polar watch and the app, and what they call like your autonomic nervous system recharge score, which is sort of how well your sympathetic nervous system shuts down when you try and when you want to go to sleep. And the way that it measures that is like your breaths per minute, your resting heart rate while you're asleep, and then also your heart rate variability. And my HRV baseline for even off that period has been like, I think like high 80s. But if I have a big Saturday night like I did, like my heart rate variability still isn't back to baseline yet. It wasn't, it was still just below my baseline last night. And it's been 4 nights.
Yeah.
And it's still not back to where it normally would be. So it's funny to see how much of an effect that big night out has on your ability to shut down and recover for a lasting period of time. Like it's not just
the day after.
It's not just the day after. Like people go, I'm not hungover anymore. But if you actually look at like your sleep patterns and what happens, like it's probably very, very different. I'd be very interested to see now that hopefully, fingers crossed, I stay off the beers for a month or so, and then see whether if maybe my HRV, because I would expect my HRV when healthy to be up around the hundreds, not mid to high 80s. So we'll see whether if that changes, but it's just interesting.
Is it improving with you being less? No, but you had beers on the weekend as well. So you.
That's what I mean. Like, I'm sure I've had beers every weekend since.
Yeah,
Christmas.
you'd almost want to have like a month off completely to monitor and see where you bounce to.
Yes,
or
correct.
bounce back to.
Yep, and that would be the best way to see what alcohol actually is doing as well.
Yeah.
Because it would be interesting if in a month my HRV is up to 105 when I'm asleep, and then you have a big night on the beers and it takes a week to even get back above 70.
And can you explain for people what HRV is?
Heart rate variability is like it's the time between individual beats of your heart and how much it's a score dictating how much variance there is. So lots of variance and a high heart rate variability is a good thing, correct? Or is it the other way around?
No, low HRV is good, right?
No, high HRV is good.
I don't know, but one of them is good.
You want a fairly
green.
high,
You want it to be green.
Yeah, you want a high degree of variability between
beats.
Okay.
Okay.
When you're in rest and digest.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you're in that's why it's a good measure of your ability for like the autonomic nervous system to do it.
So it's about testing like regulation.
Yes. Yeah. Correct.
Because it's not the so like if your heart rate is
Fucking hell.
Do you want a tissue? Oh, I moved them over the other side.
That's fine.
So for those that are just listening,
Steve just spilled his coffee on himself.
which has a lid on it, so it would seem pretty difficult normally to do that.
I have a real bad habit of spilling stuff. I spilled my beer when I was out the other night.
So I don't wear white shirts.
I try not to.
I very rarely
This
wear
is
them
a culture shirt.
because of that. It's not so. Was that hot as well?
No, it's just hot.
Oh,
Up
okay.
here.
Did you want? I moved the fan. On the other side as
That's
well.
okay. That's all right.
But yeah, so it's not measuring the actual wave size or is that the amplitude? No, the amplitudes. Oh my god.
The voltage.
I do not remember anything about waves. Can you teach me about waves today? Quickly.
I can try to.
So if you think about a graph where a wave's going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down.
So you have, hang on. So in an EMG graph, if you're watching, I'm going to try and do it as best I can on the pretend screen. Okay. If you have an EMG graph, you have your P, Q, R, S, T. Yeah, that's the way that's set up. And that is when you see the base coming along, so that little flat line, and then you have a little dip here just before the big spike. That's your P wave. And that is repolarization, which means an extra electron being added to electrons crossing over to the to the ventricle, to the ventricle of the heart. And then the QRS complex is that the bottom part here, at the bottom of that dip is the Q, the top is the R and the S. That's your actual beat, that's where blood is pushed out of the heart. And that's your QRS complex. That is ventricle depolarization. So that's using the action potential that has crossed into the heart, into that ventricle. It's using that to push blood out. So then it loses that electron, I believe, which is the action potential, or loses that action potential anyway. And then when you get back down, then you have another dip just after, which is your T wave, and that is atrial repolarization as well.
Again.
Okay, no, atrial, which is different. Yeah, so then you have atrial repolarization, and then that passes back over here to the P wave again, which is the action potential crossing back into, again, because you have a different action potential coming each time. So you have, it comes from the left atrium into the left ventricle, pushes into the right ventricle, the right atrium, and then it moves away from the heart, and then another one comes in back on the other side of the heart again.
Which is why there is variance. Mm-hmm. And it's not like
exact
an
every
exact
time.
beat.
Yeah.
So what does like arrhythmia look like?
Fuck. Arrhythmia is just an irregularity between P wave and the QRS complex, I believe. So there should be like a if most PQRS should look fairly similar the whole time. There might be differences between each complex itself, but what will happen, and I'm not actually 100% sure this is right, but is
Luckily, this is uneducated opinions.
there may sometimes be stalls between the P wave and the QRS complex, and that's what no, that's not an arrhythmia. No, that's a lie. That's an issue with the SA node. That's wrong.
Ah.
And I can't remember how to read an arrhythmia.
What does a heart attack look like?
And a heart attack is just no regularity at all to the beats. Because a heart attack, this is what a lot of people get mixed up. A heart attack isn't actually cardiac arrest, right? It's not the heart stopping.
Is it myocardial?
That's a myocardial infarction.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a massively infarction. Yeah. There's massively irregular heartbeats, so your heart's going all out of control. And arrhythmia, I'm 99% sure, is irregularity. Yeah. So there's regularly irregular, which means that maybe every 6 beats, the 5th one of those 6 beats is half a second longer than every other beat.
And is that that's still not good, right?
It's not good, but it's not necessarily dangerous because your heart is still doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Irregular is maybe it's like if you go time between time of the QRS complex, maybe it's 0.02 milliseconds, 0.02 milliseconds, 0.07, 0.02, 0.02, 0.05, 0.02, 0.01, 0.07. Irregular, so no pattern and no distinct shape to it, is really bad. That's an irregularly irregular heartbeat, which is dangerous, which is very dangerous.
I see. And how do steroids affect the heart?
Yeah, you tell me.
I have no idea.
I've been doing a lot of talking.
I was just bringing the conversation to what we were going to originally talk about.
How does steroids affect the heart? What kind of steroid? Like anabolic kind?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure anabolic steroids can result in like hypertrophy of the heart as well, can't they?
I think so.
Which is not good.
Why is that not good?
Well, because hypertrophy of the heart, if the muscle itself grows in size, then you actually have a decrease in volume.
So you're like restricting flow.
So you're actually restricting flow, yeah.
Interesting.
So you don't actually want, you have what's called left ventricular hypertrophy, which is where the blood fills from the body to then get pumped back out and through the aortic valve. So you don't actually want that thickening because that's going to decrease the amount of diastolic flow that you can get in there, which is the refilling back into the heart.
Interesting.
On the off chance that someone like Beck listens to this podcast, please don't tell anyone all the stuff that I'm getting wrong here, because I'm 90% sure like only 50% of what I'm saying is right.
I think you've done well to make it look like you know what you're talking about.
I did it once in like 2 separate subjects at some point ages ago.
So the world of weightlifting was rocked this week by a new documentary that came out called Lord of the Lifters. It's a German documentary. The same mob that broke the Russian doping scandal originally back in 2015, 2016, something like that.
14?
Whatever it was. No, it was 2014. No, yeah, something, yeah, whenever.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. Anyway, and that has caused a huge stir because, one, if you've watched the documentary Icarus, it really exposed what systematic doping looks like for a country.
Yep.
But
when it's passed down from the highest order.
When it's passed down from the highest order. But this documentary showed systematic doping, but also, I guess, like just wide-scale corruption at the highest level within the sport of weightlifting.
Mm.
So it basically brings in people like the president of the IWF, Thomas Ayan, and high-level executives from different countries, federations, as all culpable in one, doping and letting people get under the table, missing funds, so people are hiding funds and doing all of that, and then actually, when people get done in for steroids and like, I was a scapegoat, it kind of makes those claims valid.
Ricky Garrard.
Unfortunately, Ricky Garrard is not included in this because
It's CrossFit.
it's CrossFit and not WADA tested.
Yeah.
But basically, it means that like everyone's corrupt.
Yeah.
And it's a scary world we live in.
There's not many things that money and power can't buy you.
No. And it seems to also show that countries like, Azerbaijan and all those places that have been done recently have potentially only gotten done because they didn't pay their fees or their bribes.
What, to the IOC?
To the IWF.
Oh, IWF, sorry. Interesting. You know what's really funny about even not looking at the corruption of people, but maybe the ability of certain nations to stand over the top of people. And I don't know whether you've talked about this before on this podcast, but it's funny to see the IOC at the start of last year come out and say that due to Russia's just blatant ignoring of the rules in almost all sports, they're going to be banned from the Olympics altogether.
Yeah.
And then within a month, obviously, you would almost think someone's gotten a phone call from Putin and they've come back out and reneged, which is like, it's funny. Like, if you can come out and make a statement like that, like it's not on, goodbye, and then you renege from that statement, any credibility you have is gone.
Yeah.
And that's one of the many reasons why the Olympics is becoming a joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It is a joke because,
It's even like we talked about the other day, was it on our last podcast where, on 17, where you pointed out the fact that the Olympics began as an amateur sport, right? And the rules have very gradually, even the most recent one saying that going to the point where now NBA players, for example, are allowed to play in the basketball in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Which that was never allowed because it was supposed to be an amateur sport contest. But now, like, we're completely gone from what the roots of the Olympics originally was.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
what it's supposed to have been.
That's exactly what I was about to say. And I guess that's the thing, like people will say, hey, what about if we just let steroids be allowed? What if we let's not just say steroids, let's say performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah.
Because that encompasses a whole bunch of things more than just testosterone, Anavar, Dianabol, like all of those things. There's EPO, there's Trenbolone, there's like, it's not just anabolics. There's amphetamines.
Do you think that recreational drugs should be on the
banned list?
Ban list?
No, they should be banned in competition.
Yeah.
But they don't have like long-lasting side effects in terms of like performance enhancing.
So that podcast that I started listening to the other day is interesting. That guy is doing. So Andy suggested that I listen to a Weightlifting House podcast on the history of PEDs in sport.
It's a really good episode.
Which is the performance enhancing drugs. And just listening to, they're doing research at the moment to see how much of a lasting effect on muscle nucleotides that anabolic steroids have in people who maybe took steroids years ago, if they still have that lasting effect. And I thought the way that I had probably never really thought about it myself was really interesting, is that if you get someone that even naturally does a whole bunch of training, a whole bunch of hypertrophy and strength work, we see a difference in nucleotides in that, which is what is defined as like that muscle memory, years in advance. Even after a massive period of detraining, you still see that difference, which would be the suggestion that that's why someone who's trained for years and years and years, they have 2 years off for a back injury, and then they come back. It doesn't take them that long to get back to better than most people.
Yeah.
And so the same theory surely would work with anabolic steroids, right? So if you take an anabolic steroid, those numbers in the muscles increase, then why would you think that those, logically anyway, why would you think that those numbers are going to drop back just because you've ceased to take anabolic steroids?
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen in any other setting.
Well, I mean, that's what they found on the mice studies.
Yes.
So, I mean, if we were to...
But very rarely do mice studies carry over exactly to male studies.
Yes.
Human studies.
Yeah. But, like, if we were to infer... I mean, you can see it.
Yeah,
like,
of course you can see it.
Like, if you know someone who's done the, like, drugs.
Yeah.
And then you see them come off the drugs. A good example, Ilya. We know he's doped. We know he's come back. He's a lot worse than he was, but he's not that much worse.
Yeah.
You know, he's still able to compete at a world level.
Yeah.
He's just not the best anymore.
Yeah.
And he's old too. But so like you take into account a country that has like maybe systematic doping where they start these kids off at 13 years old for men. So for
before they're being tested in
12 years old for men, 13 years old for women. You get them doping all the way up until... Are you struggling with the heat?
No, I'm fine.
Oh.
I was just keeping an eye on the clock.
Oh, okay. Do you need to go now?
No, we've got time.
And you see them, you know, dope all the way until they're 20. They're off the grid. You don't know them. And then they come off. They have like a full year or two off steroids. That amount of training that they had when they were young is the reason that they're at the world level not getting busted now. And it's scary to see. Because like... And that was my point earlier before you started talking was people say, who cares? Let's just let everyone dope. But it's not as simple as that because, and the podcast goes into it. It's not that they're doping adults. In these countries where it's not free reign, it's not free choice, they're doping children.
Yeah. Who don't have the...
They don't have the say. They don't have the...
knowledge to know either.
Yeah. They don't have the capacity to understand what's going on. They also are, you know, like if we look at different countries, they don't have the same resources that we have. They don't have the same knowledge of physiology that we have in these countries as well, sometimes.
Yeah.
So
even if you go away from that though, the argument that I've always had, especially with like things like cycling and that sort of thing, and you can see it in sports where it is legal, like Mr. Olympia, for example, like where
it's not legal.
Where it's clear that everyone is, where it's clear that everyone is on it,
Yeah.
and nothing is done about it, right? You don't want, if you were to say in the Olympics, okay, it's legal, free reign, do whatever you want, then it really begins to come down to not who is the better athlete, it comes down to who has the better pharmacist.
Yes.
And you don't want the sport to become more about that than about everything else, which is why...
But see, like, that, I don't think that's a good... Look, I understand what you're saying.
Can I counter the argument before you counter it? Because I feel like I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, okay.
Is that, like, with development in science as well, like in sport in general, but I don't think it's the same. Like, I don't think it's the same to say, like for example, Australia is really far ahead of most other nations as far as sports science is concerned.
Yeah, like we've mastered the idea of like sanding a ball down.
Yeah.
Adjust for spin.
Adjust for spin.
I don't know.
If you're going to comment, at least know your argument. Anyway, go. Yeah. What was your counterpoint? Why
that was my counterpoint is that it already is who has the best training theory, best scientists. It's not just about like an amateur athlete getting after it at the gym or wherever they are to improve. there's already so many hands in the pool. There's, if you're in a place where like you have access to like physiotherapy, to, I don't know how much you place validity into like things like cryo, sauna, like all of those things. Like if you're already doing that stuff, like, having a good doctor on hand is probably like a logical step for a lot of these countries. I mean, at least that's how they're going to look at it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And that's
I can see the argument, but
yeah.
I think for me there's a pretty clear line in the sand between the two.
Yeah.
But that might just be my personal biases about it as well.
And I'm only just making the argument for the sake of it. I actually think that it shouldn't happen. Like, I'm all for proper testing protocols in sports. I want athletes to be athletes. It's about natural human potential. It's the same as like wearing sleeves and a belt is not the same as wearing like steroids. Or like not the same as wearing wraps and full.
I've never squatted in wraps.
I have wraps downstairs. You can try them if you want. Just try squatting in my sleeves one day.
Yeah.
The red ones. While they're still new and I don't actually use them enough times to get stinky.
I need to do the next 3 days of my strength program over the next 3 days.
Oh, have you only done day one?
I've only done deadlifts this week so far. That's fine. I'll be able to. Like, it's not a problem. But just
Are you training today?
Yeah, but today, like, I only got to do the pressing today, which is like a.
What time are you training?
Like, that doesn't really put much strain. I don't feel like. Well, I have a chiro appointment at 2, and then I'll probably go straight from there to the gym to train.
Okay. Are you here or at Annengrove?
Here.
Oh, you're here.
Yeah.
2. So you go. What time do you start work?
4:30.
What time do you have to be there?
4:15.
Do you potentially want to train here?
If I can get here by 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me know.
Because I can bust out the pressing session in an hour.
Yeah. Let me know how you're going, because like I need to train as well.
Okay.
I'd like someone around while I train.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted.
But I also need to know whether I get back here by 3 as well.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
With I guess the next step, because like we both agree, steroid sport bad. It's definitely not safe for the athletes. That's the main thing, right? Safety.
That being said, even if this is, I'm not sure how. I'll just ask you the question. If I could guarantee you a gold medal, but told you it's going to take 5 years off your life, would you take the gold medal? And
you're not going to get busted. You can guarantee it.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, like that's the thing. Probably.
Yeah.
That's why you've got to make the punishment so severe, because the punishment's so severe and the likelihood of getting punishment enough.
So likely. Yeah.
That, like, it's not like I'm not inherently a good person. I will do whatever it takes to win and get by. A lot of the guiding force in my life is by
punishment.
Will I get caught and will I get in trouble for it?
Yeah.
If I can get away with something, like, screw ethics, like, I probably would.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, like, as someone who is like very interested in performance, I do look for an edge.
Yeah.
And one of the only things that probably stops me, well, 2 things stop me.
Maybe start with getting enough sleep.
Yes, exactly. Well, the 2 things that stop me are, one is that I haven't put the emphasis on the things that actually matter. So like, if I was perfect, then that would be a thing that I'd look at.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
But then the second thing is like, I want to compete in weightlifting still.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be a cheater.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But is it your ethical guidance that stops you from wanting to be a cheater, or is it just the risk of the branding that you're going to get if you were to be caught cheating?
No, I actually also don't want to be a cheater. Like, if it was within the rules, as it is kind of with strongman, where it's like just unspoken, like that, then it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But I couldn't look at my friends who I'm competing against and be like, hey guys, so I just added 20 kilos to my calf raise, like, in a day.
You see that video that Donnie tagged me in last
night?
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. He tagged us both in it.
Yeah.
I don't quite know what he was getting at by saying that's what you do.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to ask whether, like, I wonder if he's been programmed that and there's some validity to it, or if it's just like a crazy person at the gym.
Hey, look, when I first saw it, my first thought was like, that's spaz, but also looking at like trying to think how that could be beneficial if it was something that he was doing. So obviously for everyone not knowing what the hell we're talking about, there was a guy that was doing like a quarter squat, not even quarter squat, an eighth of a squat, and then like exploding up and forward with his hips.
Yeah.
So like essentially like a thrusting motion, right? And then, so obviously you know what the joke is. And then I was just trying to think like, is there any sort of a way to actually validate that movement and be like, okay, maybe it's being beneficial for this.
But it isn't, because
There's no way of doing it.
He'd have to leave the ground for it to have any carryover. Like if he was doing like a jump squat, even if it wasn't to depth, I reckon that would be better. But right now, what pattern is he trying?
There's no pattern. That's the issue. And anything that you could maybe argue he's trying to do would be better off being done would just be better off being done other ways. Either like supine on the ground with the load in a different position, or
hip thrusts are always better.
On the ground, or
on a ground,
or more vertical, like rather than like you're trying to move upwards rather than forwards, which is essentially what he was doing. Right?
He was basically turning. So like when you extend the ankle, knee, hip, and like bring the shoulders back, that is essentially what you're doing during a jump. And the aim is for the sequencing to line up that it propels you upwards.
Yes.
What he was doing was aggressively doing everything really fast to cancel each other out, so that he almost was just standing up with weight and not moving. But
actually, he was moving backwards.
But so that means
How's
that
the quad
he was
dominance?
Extending the knee hard and throwing the shoulders back too much. Not enough glutes, not enough ankle plantar flexion.
Yep. I had my biomechanics lecturer ages ago get a guy to come out the front and just jump on the spot, like 5 or 6 times, just jump, and then like explain why. So the guy who was jumping had like a slight movement backwards the whole time, just in his jumps, and just him explaining how that then works to show that he's probably quad dominant while extending the knee and extending the hip at the same time, because he's moving backwards. And I thought it was really interesting to see like the way that maybe you can see those sort of things from a biomechanical point of view.
Yeah, especially if that and those are the things that like stick with you from when you first figure those things out.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you see that in weightlifting, right? Like in a push press, where people like slide back a whole bunch.
Yeah.
And it's like an aggressive like knee extension, and then do you do that?
I'm guilty of that. Yeah.
But you also jump backwards on your snatches, cleans. Donnie jumps back so bad on his cleans right now. He was struggling. Like he wasn't even making contact.
That's what happens when he starts to come and see you.
He wasn't doing that before.
I know he wasn't jumping backwards at all before.
He wasn't cleaning before with me.
Yeah, but now that he started cleaning with you, he's jumping back.
Well, it's better than jumping forwards. But I'm fixing it.
I know, I'm kidding. He's always had a really bad jump back. Like his power clean is like a...
No, he used to jump forward a lot. And then you fixed his jump forward.
Yeah, and now he jumps back.
Yeah.
You should. Pull back, jump back.
He lifts a lot like you. Like you're a lot better, but he lifts, like he moves similarly to you.
But that's like, this is a discussion we had the other day. He's got very good timing.
Yeah, he does.
It's just time. Like the positions maybe aren't that great. Like you said about me, the positions aren't that great, but the timing is rhythmic enough that it looks like it maybe is better.
Yeah.
So like his lifts actually look fairly pretty, even though maybe he's in not the best positions.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that.
Which I think timing is something that you can't teach, right?
I think you can.
Can you?
Yeah.
Some people have it, some people don't.
Some people have it really easy though.
Yeah, okay.
But you can teach it, but you've got to be patient enough to
learn it.
To learn it.
Yeah. Do you think it's literally just practice?
It is, because anyone can learn to dance,
Yeah.
but it's the same thing. Like it's exactly that. It's just sequencing.
Still got a
and-
couple minutes.
Yeah, we go off topic so quickly.
Yeah, that's okay.
Because we haven't even talked about punishment and stuff.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
we have to save that for next time. We'll lead next week's episode off this week's. So we'll talk about performance enhancing.
We're going to
drugs.
have done 3 podcasts in a row that are just all about training. Training related stuff.
That's right. We're on a roll
Yeah. I think majority of our crowd listens to it.
for that reason.
Not for that reason, but from that background.
Hey, JP said he listened to the last episode.
Yeah, he texted me and told me.
Yeah. Because I didn't realize that it was on the podcast that we were talking about. No, maybe we weren't talking about it. Did we talk about him on the podcast?
Not in the way that you're thinking.
Ah.
No. We talked about that, but not about him.
Yeah, no, not that. Because he said something about his downstairs. Did we talk
Oh,
about-
yes, we did. Yeah.
Oh, we
yeah,
did talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
that?
We were talking about why I'm heavier than him, despite him being so much.
Oh,
bigger.
yeah, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, because I was trying to figure out, I was like, oh, we talked about JP?
Listen,
I thought we
Bo
didn't.
had a crack at us about that the other day because I was like, look at the thickness of JP compared to me, and like, why am I 3 kilos heavier than him at the moment?
Yeah.
And then Bo's like, because you're so much taller. And I'm like, Bo, I'm like an eye level above him. Like, I'm not that much taller than him.
Yeah.
And he's like, trust me, it's more than enough. And I'm like, he's like an eye level thicker than I am, which is his whole size.
I told you, man, he's got hollow bones.
He must. No,
He's
he must
like
just have hollow muscles.
All that, yeah.
Big cross-sectional area, but not much actual
Density?
density in there.
You're pretty dense.
Maybe I just have heavy bones. Big boned. That's my excuse.
Yeah, that's what most fat people say.
Yeah. You're looking pretty fat at the moment.
Yeah. Sad.
Have you gotten on the gear? Is that why?
No, it's because I'm not on it. I have to get stronger by putting on weight.
Yeah. How heavy are you now?
I'm like 82, so I've put on weight.
You're still 10 kilos lighter than me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you still deadlift and squat more than me.
Yeah, but you also have to understand that, like, I'm a beast.
We'll see when you get to Arnold's and try and deadlift 260 for reps. I saw you. Was that axle bar 220 PR yesterday?
Yeah, 20 kilos.
20 kilo PR.
My best is 200.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So all those high reps
Have been
paid
working.
off apparently.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you think it's high reps because it's just helping you positionally?
No, my positions are pretty good. On like not on deadlifts.
Fucking wanker.
On deadlifts they are.
Okay. So you don't think that? Okay. Do you think the high reps are just training you to be better to support yourself through the torso better, rather
just
than
think
actual strength?
I think it's actually just given me I think the volume has actually helped my strength as well.
So do you think you would pull 240 on an irregular bar?
I can already almost pull 240.
Yeah, but do you think you would hit it?
Oh
now?
yeah.
Do you think you'd hit 250? Do you think all this volume has put 20 kilos on your axle bar or 20 kilos on your deadlift?
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, I think it's putting on my
Axle bar.
bar. No, I don't know what a
Do you think some of that is maybe neural stuff to like learning
yes
the bar path better?
Yeah, 100%. Because this is much like you're doing axle bar
bars at the moment.
deadlifts at the moment.
I don't find them that different.
That's probably because you haven't had to lift so heavy on a regular bar where you're having to deal with whip and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The main thing about this is that it's stiff and
I can't cheat.
you can't cheat. That's the
Yeah.
only reason that you have axle bar. That's why you get to use straps and stuff.
Yeah.
Because our goal is actually to improve your regular deadlift.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's
Do we want to wrap up there?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
right?
that's all right.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. Thanks for listening to episode 18 of the Uneducated Opinions. If you liked the episode, let us know. Shoot us a message. We said it at the end of the last one. If you guys have anything you want us to talk about, shoot us a message. Let us know. We'll have a chat about it while we're on here. Anything you want to hear us talk about again, like I know at the end of our 17.5 episode, which if you haven't listened to, it's only a short 15-minute one. Tune in and give that one a listen. I said to give us a bell. Shoot us a message if you want us to go back and maybe discuss a little bit more about that as well. Otherwise, make sure you're following both of us on Instagram. Andy is at Train with Andy, and I'm at Steve Norman 250. You can follow the Uneducated Opinions at Uneducated Opinions, and if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that little notifications bell so that you are notified every time we put out a new episode.
See you guys.
See you guys.